Jimmie J.J. is always going to be J.J., no matter what.
Dynamite!
Dynamite.
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 He was funny looking and everything. You know, he weighed about, I don't know, 18 pounds.
He became an iconic figure.
He was enormous.
I can go out and do Taming of the Shrew, but it's still going to be J.J. up there.
There were some people in the cast who felt like they were making him into a bit of a buffoon.
As black people, a lot of times we used to say a step and fetch it type thing.
He was not a step and fetch it. He was not an Uncle Tom, and as proud to be black as a black guy could be.
If you're a real comic, you can't be a good guy. You have to be kind of the guy who takes the pie.
He will always be a comedian. That is his true love.
He's in some donkey little town hanging with the comedians.
Wasn't I somebody at one time? I used to be on red carpets, doggone it. You go, what happened to me?
Incredible triumphs, devastating losses, unbelievable chance, and sudden misfortune. Then there was life after.
The dynamite thing, man.
You're gonna be a forever star,
It's innate
aren't
in
you?
every human being to
I want
have
to start a whole other
purpose.
genre of music.
I'm all day, every day a friend.
Such extraordinary things.
You can call it coincidence. I call it the hand of God.
I was born in New York City, moved to the Melrose Projects when I was a little tiny kid. My mother was a hard working woman. She would become a licensed registered nurse, and then she went to get her master's degree in nursing. My father, just a bad guy, did a lot of fooling around. He was very violent to her.
Jimmie, he was always closed about his background. It was like he was writing a book and he didn't tell you about those first 20 chapters of the book.
Jimmie Walker grew up in the boogie down Bronx, when the South Bronx was really the South Bronx. I mean, gritty, vacant lots, run-down buildings, almost nothing you could say good about it.
I think the thing that people don't realize is when you grow up in the South Bronx or Bed-Stuy or South Side Chicago, in my time, most of the time, that's all you know. All right, people, here we are. This is where I grew up. The Melrose Project, 700 Morris Avenue, South Bronx. This is my projects with all my friends, Gooey, Popo, Head, Jabbo. We had parents, maybe not the best, but they tried. You know, they could only do the best they could do. And it's been 50 years since I've been back here. I mean, this is unbelievably amazing. And I'm enjoying every moment of it, showing you guys where I came from. This is it. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It's very good. I enjoy it. It's nice.
Jimmie Walker has like the classic coming up and finding success story from New York. He grew up in a really tough neighborhood, and he was able to take advantage of the SEEK program from New York State, which helps disadvantaged students go to college.
My counselor there, Donald Beckerman, was the guy who said, what do you want to really do? I really had no idea. I said, I want to be in radio. He said, okay.
He got an engineering license for radio, one of the first African Americans to ever have one, and that's really where his career started.
I was trying to do stand-up in front of my oral interpretation class because you had to give like 3 minutes. And the interesting thing is started getting some laughs. So I was saying to the guys in my class, gee, I'd like to do a little more on a wider level. I wonder if there's a place that I could go. So they said, well, there's this place called the East Wind, and there's a group called the Last Poets. And in my mind, you know, I didn't want to be Robert Louis Stevenson or any of that kind of jazz. I said, no, these guys are a little different.
It was an era in the 60s where it was certainly about Black revolution. So Jimmie Walker would really get into comedy through the Black movement, through the Last Poets.
So I went in there and checked it out, and these guys were harsh. So I had to adjust my material, just tough on white people's stuff. We did shows with Nikki Giovanni, Stokely Carmichael. We did shows with the Black Panthers. And it was always funny, William Kunstler was their attorney, a white guy, and he'd be right in the front, and they'd go, and then Whitey should be destroyed because he's nothing but the devil. And William Kunstler would stand and go, right on, man. And you go, sit down, shut up.
he would soon find out this kind of comedy, this kind of edgy, racially charged comedy may not get him that far.
You can be in entertainment and one thing changes your whole life.
A talent scout for Norman Lear saw him.
Says the show called Good Times. 2 days later, contracts. I said, oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, the world-famous Apollo Theater. I was fortunate enough to be here for at least 2 years, being the house MC.
And he became the youngest MC ever at the Apollo Theater.
This was the anchor of what they call the Chitlin Circuit. We do 6 shows a day, 7 days a week. And if you didn't do well, you knew you didn't do well because the backstage leads into an alleyway and cats be waiting for you after the show. You wasn't funny, sucker. My mother loved coming here. She'd come backstage and say, I can't believe these people are talking about you. She let them know right here in this hollow hallway that her son was out there playing and knocking down the big stuff, baby. From the Apollo, and I said, I got to get down where it's a little more activity, a little more stuff happening. And people said, well, you should go downtown, man. You should start working down there. So the first room I went to, old-fashioned room called the African Room on 44th and like Broadway.
It was mostly a black audience. So I wanted to make everybody laugh. So I would go there. And one night when I went there was a skinny black kid on stage, and he was funny looking and everything. You know, he weighed about, I don't know, 18 pounds.
Me and Brenner became fast friends. He's the guy who initially molded my kind of comedy. When I came over with my just tough on white people stuff, they said, you don't need that, take that out.
I said, you gotta learn to make white people laugh. It wasn't that he was selling out. Jimmie never sold out. He was as black as a black guy could be, but he was black like Richie Pryor made white people laugh. Cosby made white people laugh. And Jimmie just turned it around.
Well, people, we're at the Cafe Wa, right here in Greenwich Village. And this is where I started, among the many places. The girls were different, they were sweeter, they were nicer. The guys were like very like, hey man, you haven't tried these kind of cigarettes yet, try these. So it was that kind of stuff like that. And for career-wise, it was great because somebody, it may have been Brenner, somebody said to me, they said, either you continue in radio, which I had a nice, comfy situation there, or you give up your radio gig and become a full-time comic. And Teddy Ronenberg, our chief engineer, he said to me, you want to give this up for comedy? And I said, yeah. At that time in New York, we had Johnny Carson, we had Jack Parr, Merv Griffin. Actually, in those days, talent people from each show would come in and watch the talent. Wow, what a unique idea.
That was the only way to become famous. And Jimmie just, he wasn't making it there. I think there was something holding him back.
I couldn't get on any shows, no shows.
There's this black guy who was as black as you could be, and it wasn't his material. It was the prejudice.
Steve Landsberger did Barney Miller and David Brenner. They went to the Jack Parr people and said, hey, how about Jimmie Walker? Absolutely not. We've seen Jimmie Walker, not funny, not good, no good. They said, you know what? If Jimmie Walker's not on, then we're not on.
So they kind of protested for Jimmie Walker, and Jimmie Walker would go on the Jack Parr show. He kills it.
And I opened up and says, hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm originally from the ghetto. They sent me down here on the exchange program. I wonder what they sent up there.
And my school is great, because my school is all black. We had a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. All the dwarfs were black, but we had to bust in Snow White. Yeah. And I found out one thing about going back to school with y'all, the Caucasian people. I found out why y'all are better in school than we are. Because y'all are better cheaters. Really, I used to go to school with little white kids. These had the answers written all them down their arm and everything. I tried that one time and almost went blind. Thank you.
That's amazing how you can be in entertainment and one thing changes your whole life. And for Jimmie Walker, that was getting the Jack Paar show.
A talent scout for Norman Lear saw him and said, we're getting ready to do this sitcom.
Esther Roll is in the show. She's now on Maude. They're giving her a spinoff. Do you want to be in the show? And I said, yeah, I'll be in the show, whatever. So I didn't expect any contracts. 2 days later, contracts. Now, there was a guy who used to always sit at the end of the bar, claimed he was a lawyer. We called him Kenny the Drunk. He was just sitting there all the time, his head's down. I'm a lawyer, and I had an office and a practice on Madison Avenue, So I said to Kenny the Drunk, this shows you what my abilities were. I said, hey, Kenny, take a look at these contracts. Are they valid? And he puts on his reading glasses, he's looking at it, and he says, yeah, this is a real deal. I said, oh my God.
People wouldn't go out at night until they could see Good Times.
I mean, he was so funny looking. Perfect.
He was enormous.
That's it, right there. The dynamite thing, man.
Hey, Jimmie Walker, how you doing? Can't believe you're here. Good to see you.
Thank you. That's the great thing about growing up here. Everybody was the same. You can see it now as people cruise around. Everybody's the same kind of guy, same kind of gal, same kind of person.
My name is Paul.
Paul.
I'm a big fan of yours, sir.
You're the one. You can look at the apartments. They're basically all the same. 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, hard-working families. Nobody felt any different.
Repeats, whatever, I have to watch Good Times, because it was a good show.
My man Paul from the neighborhood, baby.
That's me.
Jimmie Walker, really his first love is stand-up. But Norman Lear would see Jimmie Walker and said, this guy has something.
I walk in the studio and all these people are sitting around a table, they're doing a thing.
He was standing there with that dumb hat. And Norman Lear, the producer, he was sitting there.
So I'm sitting there somewhere reading this thing, and I'm looking at it, and there would be a line like, and then we went to the house, and you'd hear, ha, 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 ha. I go to the guy, and he said, what are these guys laughing at? I said, well, there was a joke in the script, whatever. You go, really? I said, I don't see nothing funny about this. The guys who are gonna produce this are idiots. And Norman looked at me like, I hired this guy, huh?
He was a character who was physically funny, he had great punchlines, but he was also lovable.
He helped carry that show. Everybody watched. They wanted to see what JJ's going to say or do next.
You gonna need that education when the school turns you out into the streets.
Oh, Mama, what's gonna happen? Somebody's gonna pull me into the alleyway and say, tell me what happened in 1066, otherwise I'll blow your brains out.
People wouldn't go out at night until they could see Good Times. And then the next day at school, they'd be, oh, that JJ, he got off last night.
They may even pick me to make the graduation speech. Let us be inspired by our principal, who once said, show me a man who can laugh when he's down, and I'll show you a happy wino.
Jimmie was a one-of-a-kind. He made the character, then they wrote the script for it. I mean, he was so funny looking. Perfect.
There was someone, a producer on the show, that heard him say something.
Did a dynamite little one in rehearsal. John Rich, who's kind of a round little guy, comes up, he says,
use that, that would work.
That's it, right there. The dynamite thing, man.
No, I don't think that would work.
I said, oh, John, stop it. He says, let me tell you something. In 50 years from now, people are gonna still be yelling,
dynamite! Dynamite.
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 Dynamite!
18 today, happy, bright, narrow man, and pure dynamite!
Jimmie Walker, he became an iconic figure.
He was enormous. He was a thing that people would put on a magazine and they would buy it. They'd put him on a milk carton, they'd buy the milk.
He said that before this show, I couldn't get a girlfriend. And he got the girls, too.
He was also on every show that you could think of at that time.
Hollywood Squares.
The Love Boat.
A lot of Match Games.
Fantasy Island.
Johnny and Marie, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas. I mean, he was just on everything.
At the time, Jimmie Walker had a staff of writers. They would help him write these jokes.
It was like a club, and he paid them all. And I thought the guy's insane.
I had Jay Leno, David Letterman.
What are you, going to camp?
I had at least 30 writers on my staff. I would take every joke. I try to bury the crowd. That where people had to go to the bathroom, they couldn't take it anymore. That's the kind of damage I wanted to do.
J.J. Evans would become America's favorite character. However, there were some people in the cast, like the late, great Esther Roll, who felt like they were making him into a bit of a buffoon.
As black people, a lot of times we used to say a step and fetch it type thing. And she fought to tone down his character. And this really affected Jimmie until this day.
I remember Jimmie Walker. He was not a step and fetch it. He was not an Uncle Tom. And as proud to be black as a black guy could be. And most of the black entertainers who followed him would have never made it if Jimmie didn't break it.
If you're a real comic, you can't be a good guy. You have to be kind of the guy who takes the pie. You have to really be the guy that is the wackiest, kookiest, craziest guy in the cast. But with the knowledge of knowing that this could be with you forever and forever and forever, you'll never shake it.
He never stopped being a stand-up comedian. He's always on the road.
Hey, not that JJ Dynamite guy here tonight.
He's in some donkey little town.
What happened to me? Wasn't I somebody at one time? Let me tell you something, people. I hate those cell phones right now. Never liked them. You know why? Because I go back to the old days with phones, when you had one big black phone in the house. And every year, the cord kept curling up closer to the wall. It'd be like, yeah, she's around, but we can't get to her right now. I'll call you right back. Okay, bye-bye. Get off the phone. Get out of here.
Jimmie Walker, over the last 2 decades, he's continued to do guest spots on shows like George Lopez, Everybody Hates Chris. His bread and butter continues to be stand-up comedy.
We've become cell phone elitists, haven't we? If you see somebody with a flip phone, you almost look at them as a homeless guy. Oh, sorry. You need money for a sandwich or something? Been doing it too long.
Jimmie, unlike a lot of comedians when they got their own shows, he never stopped being a stand-up comedian. He's always on the road.
You fly into a place, probably 75 seats, in this little mall off to the side, and you're sitting there with waitresses that haven't been to a dentist in probably 30 years, and they're sitting there, hey, not that JJ Dynamite guy here tonight.
He's in some donkey little town, you know, some comedy club, hanging with the comedians. He thinks he's 23 years old.
Even like the Subway sandwich place is closed like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. No Denny's, no nothing. You're just on the road with your little satchel going from town to town.
He loves it. Although, you know, you can't get him to say, I love it, but I know him and he likes that.
Jimmie JJ is always going to be JJ, no matter what. I can do Othello, I can go out and do Taming of the Shrew, but it's still going to be JJ up there. So go with it, relax with it, and work with it, and people are unbelievable. They love you. I'm old school. What do you want? I'm old school. Because when I go out to these small places, these guys don't get a chance to see comedy. Hopefully they enjoy what I do. But it's just a strange place, because you finish, like, say, midnight, and you walk out of the club, and there's nothing but tumbleweed blowing. And you're looking around, and you go, wasn't I somebody at one time? You know, I used to be on red carpets, doggone it. You go, what happened to me? What am I doing?
Life after for Jimmie Walker means he will always be a comedian, because that is his true love,
It's about being able to do the work and deliver and make people happy, make people laugh. And that's kind of part of Jimmie Walker's legacy.
He's a wonderful survivor of this business. And there are not a whole lot of them.
You know, the only definition of happiness that I ever heard, happiness is doing what you love to do in a place you never want to leave. Now, Jimmie Walker, what he loves to do is stand-up comedy. And the place he never wants to leave is not a town, it's not a city, it's the stage. And that's why Jimmie Walker is a happy man.
You know, the future, realistically, you know, I want to be one of these guys who go, and then we're going to zoom up and we're going to go to this. Jimmie Walker's not going nowhere. That's it. I'm going to be a road comic. And, of course, even the obit is going to be strange, because when I die, they'll go, you know who died today, Rick? Who? Jimmie J.J. Walker. Really? I liked him. He had a little dynamite hat on. What's the phrase? He did the dynamite thing? Yeah, he was great. Too bad. I always liked him. Anyway, we'll be right back after this. And you'll see the nice little thing underneath. Jimmie J.J. Walker. Dynamite.